I'll tell you something I hate. Buy-to-let residential property investment. In my opinion, it's dead. So why the heck did I just go and buy this house? As you can see, it doesn't look like a normal property investment. I'm going to break it down for you in this video. What an idiot I am. Just look at the size of this house. This is not your standard buy-to-let property investment. But before I talk about the property, let's talk about the David Hasselhoff voice that I'm adopting at the moment. Got a bit of a sore throat. I don't usually sound like this. Back to the property. This property is huge. It is not your standard buy-to-let property investment. As you go back to the younger James Sinclair, I would have loved getting my hands on residential property investment. I bought lots of it and I still own quite a bit right now. I've got a block of flats and houses and stuff that I rent out. But the returns have diminished over time, mainly because there's a government that are just so anti-landlord and anti-property investment that I hopscotched into commercial property investment. So let's look at this deal in whole. I paid 765,000 smackaroonies for this property, costing me a whopping £50,000 in stamp duty because I had to pay a 3% surcharge because the government are bashing wealth creators and property investors here in the UK, something I'm very angry about, but that's a video for another day. So let's look at the size of the property here. So we've got a big house over here, giant garden, but also another flat up here and a set of double garages. I'm going to convert that into a flat. Don't know what I'm going to do with the double garages. What I'm going to do with this property is I own a hotel called the Blue Boar Hotel, which is about 10 minutes down the road. So we're going to turn this into a serviced accommodation house that's connected to our hotel. These are all excuses, reasons that I'm finding to make this deal stack up. Still not the main reason that I bought this property. I'll tell you why I bought it. As you can see, it's just an old, outdated house. It's a rusty diamond that we're going to polish up, and later on in the video I'm going to break down all the return on investment. But if you just think about it very quickly, paid £750,000 for it, you got £50,000 worth of stamp duty, another £5,000 worth of solicitors fees, yada yada yada. So you bolt that all together, you've got £830,000 worth of capital invested to buy the property. What could you get rent for it? Well, if you rent this house standalone, £2,500, £3,000 a month. And for a man, when it comes to return on investment, my back of fag paper workings is always to have 10% rent return on total capital deployed. So if you're going to get £36,000 a year back and you're putting out £830,000 worth of capital, that's just naff on all levels. It's nowhere near the £83,000 that I want to get back. So we'll go on the flip chart later and I'll try and explain to you in more details how we can solve that conundrum, because that's a big one for me. Let's have a little look around. So as you can see, it's a beautiful old house, a perfect family home that any family would like to live in, just not the investment that James Sinclair wants to put his cash into. And I reckon I've got another £30,000 to £100,000 to turn this into the serviced accommodation connected to my hotel type business that I can do here. But I still wouldn't do that. It's just too low barrier to entry for me. But there is a reason that I've accepted that this is the best philosophy, because through this window over there's a big town over there called Malden where our hotel is. So I can easily connect the management teams folding into our existing empire to leverage this property. But it's still not the reason I bought it. I didn't think, oh, I've got a hotel 10 minutes down the road. I've got a little manor house that we're building. We can sort of tie it all together. No. This is not the reason. The reason is this. Just look at the work I've got to do. This here is lino that my nan would even say is unfashionable. We've got some Starlight Express thing on the wall here. Avocado bathroom. In fact, this might be so old that it's coming back into fashion. Can't even get in this room. Look. No. Replace the wallpaper. Oh, things to do. Over here, we've got some bird seed in here just in case the birds. Is that bird seed, I think? Harry Potter's room over here. There's a lot of work to do. And this is the thing about buy-to-let property investment, residential property investment. You as the landlord are responsible for all this stuff, and more regulation and more rules are coming in. And if this was a standard house, like I said earlier in the video, you put your 800,000 with your stamp duty to buy it, you help yourself to £36,000 a year. If you've got a mortgage, you pay all the interest payments, you pay all the tax. You're out of pocket. If the boiler goes or the tenants do something, they knock you. It's just such a bad thing nowadays. And I used to love it. It's just not what it was. And people say, oh, turn it into a HMO. I've had HMOs. They're a nightmare as well. I don't think they're the best thing that everyone stacks up. And you should always be building a business or an investment to sell. And who really wants to buy a portfolio of HMOs? Not many people, only other people that have got HMOs. And that's why I prefer business. Business first, property second. So I was going to show you around that room, but we can't get into it because there's a dodgy lock. Let's now go and look at this place outside. So why did I buy this house? Well, the answer to that conundrum is on the other side of this wall. Come with me and I'll show you. Well, it's this, which I also own, which is Red Lions Business Park. That is Red Lions' house, that property over there, which nestles in nicely next to the industrial park that I own. The predecessing owners of Red Lions' house went through a divorce, and they actually didn't really like us being here. So that divorce meant that I can now buy the property because I had to sell that property. Now, they were also dead against a big plan that I've got to do on this site, which is build 22 more industrial units at the back, which I've got full planning for. One of the reasons I bought it was an easier life because they just got fed up and said, oh, you're opening this, you're building all these properties, we don't want to live next to that. And I just thought, you know what, whoever goes there will always moan about it. So if I own the property, I control that problem. So one of the reasons I actually bought it was an easier life, but you wouldn't get James Sinclair just going and buying an £800,000 house for an easier life. There is another reason, which is going to come up later on in the video. Here's another thing though. As you can see, I've got lots of industrial units here with 22 units at the back. I want to just give you the yin and yang of commercial property investment via residential property investment. I bought this 3 or 4 years ago, 4 years ago actually. Regular viewers of the video will know I've often done content here. I paid 1.4 million for this, and the rent roll I get now is £140,000 a year. So I'm getting 10% rent on my total capital deployed at purchase time. I have lower stamp duty when I buy commercial property, horrifically lower stamp duty compared to residential property. So that one, with the stamp duty, it's an £830,000 day out, and I'm only getting £36,000 a year. So if I was putting £830,000 into a commercial property, I would try and get as close to £83,000 of rent back. And with higher interest rates and more taxes on property, it's really important that you try and get as close to that 10% rent return on total capital deployed. And that's why people are doing all these things like HMOs and serviced accommodation, which I'm not a big lover of, although I am sort of doing that over there, but only because it's connected to my trading hotel. So that means the management can easily look after it. So there is one other reason that I bought this property, and that's the big one. And to do that, I need to show you on a piece of paper because it's quite complicated. There is another thing here. Over at the back here, I'm building 22 units. And this is important for the piece of paper. Once those 22 units go in, there's going to be a lot more traffic coming to the site because more people will be working here. And that caused me a problem on planning permission. And I'm hoping now that I've bought that house that I can resolve that problem. Let's get back to the piece of paper. Now, one more bonus opportunity that I haven't allowed for in my numbers for income here is this building here, which is like the size of a small house already, or a nice house actually. It's a double garage with a flat above. We'll go inside, but I think I can separate this and get a separate rental from this, which actually would make a big difference to numbers. So I get 36,000 for the house and I might get 12,000 for this, but it's still not giving me my 10% return on total capital deployed in terms of rent roll, but it does eat into it. But I haven't allowed for that in my return on investment calculations in this video because, you know, this is more creative. But I want to quickly show you around so you get an idea. Come with me. There's a number of things that I could do with this building. I could put in planning and get this turned into a commercial warehouse, which I could rent out downstairs with an office, probably get £18,000 a year. Again, so much better than renting it out at £12,000 a year for a little flat. If you come upstairs here, you'll see that this is really ready to go. We just need to put a kitchen and bathroom in. Come with me and you'll see why it works so well as a commercial unit, because you could have nice office up here and then little manufacturing engineering business downstairs, and we've fully let our industrial property. So massive opportunity there, but I'm actually probably going to turn this into a little residential flat. One of my staff needs a property, so I can do them a great deal, help them out at the same time, which fulfills me. Right, let's get back to the video. Right, gang, let's get into the juicy numbers. We're going to go on the whiteboard now, work out return on investment on these deals that I've just bought. We'll compare residential to commercial, so it's glaringly obvious how difficult it is to get a return on investment on residential property. And then we're going to break down around the planning permission, the real reason that I bought that property, and I'm going to show you the plans and we're going to work through it here on the board. So return on investment, that's where we start when we're doing anything. And actually this formula that I'm going to share with you, if you're doing a marketing campaign in your business, you're going to buy something, you can use this quick formula to work out your return on investment. Now the aim for an entrepreneur and a savvy business owner, commercial property, residential property, is to get a 20% return on investment. Most people get between 4 and 5%. The problem with that is, if you look at base rate as I'm recording this, or it's 4.75%. Go back 3 years ago, we was close to zero as you possibly could get. Knowing that base rate is 4.75%, if you're only getting a return of investment of 4 to 5%, that is not great news. If I'm buying a property for £1 million and I see it available, it's for sale, I quickly work out, can I get £100,000 back in total rent? Total capital deployed £1 million, can I get a 100,000 rent back? So that's a 10% return there. So that's what I do. Now, if I feel like I can get as close to that as possible, it then means I can really work out my numbers. It's worth my effort. Work out what your positive cash flow is. So that house that I just showed you, it would bring in £36,000 worth of rent per year. And I put 830,000 in to buy it. That's stamp duty, that's fees, and the cash to buy it. Remember, we're working this out as if there's no mortgage debt. We're just using cash. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the positive cash flow, which is £36,000, and I'm going to divide it by my total cash in, which is £830,000, which gives me a 0.04333, blah, 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 blah. Times that by 100, and that gives me a 4.33% return on investment. What are the levers that we can pull to make this better? You buy it for less and get the same rent in, or you increase the cash that is being generated, like I showed you that flat at the back. Maybe I could then bring it into 46,000 or 48,000 pound a year rent. But actually what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into serviced accommodation connected to the hotel where we're now recording this. So if I can bring in £100,000 worth of positive cash flow by turning it into a trading business, renting it out for 3 block stays for corporates and connected to the hotel, I get my 100,000 now. Look, you can see where this will change. We go 100,000 divided by 830,000 times that by 100, we now get to a 12.048% return investment. Better, but it's not the aim of 20%. So I could get that to 180,000, and I might be able to do that. It all gets better. Now, let's look at the industrial estate. Let's look at the industrial estate. So I paid 1.450 with the stamp duty to buy that. Say again, we're using our own cash. On both of these deals, I have used mortgages, but to keep it simple, we're just bringing that in. £140,000 worth of rent. So 140,000 divided by 1.450 million equal times 100. So I bought this at a standing start without doing any jiggery pokery to 10% return on investment. Still not my 20%, but it's getting a lot closer to where I want to be. And in the future, when I add on all these units, a few more yards, I'll get it to that 20%. How do you can make this return on investment better? Well, it's by increasing the rents or reducing the amount of cash you put in by using mortgages and any other creative ways that you can do it. But this is the aim. Very hard to get to 20% return on investment. But if you have that aim in your head, it will stop you from doing all the stupid 4s and 5% that most people do. 10% is a much better place to be. If you can get to 20%, which you can do in business very easily, things got a lot better. I mean, if we quickly work it out, maybe you put £10,000 into stock, you divide it by, you turn that into £200,000 worth of profit. People can do that. You times it by 100 equals your return on investment. You can see how you can do this very quickly in business. And that is why business will always make you more money than property. Property is a great way to park wealth. Property is a great way to secure your wealth. It's a great way of looking after your wealth, in my opinion, over ISAs, stocks and shares, because you get some income straight away, but you also hopefully get the capital growth. On that example there, you can see the difference between commercial property and residential property, and how we're going to get the return investment as close to 20% as possible on that property is by turning it into a trade, an extension of our hotel, if you like. So now let's look at the real cherry cherry on the top? What's the cream of this property deal? Now here I want to show you some of the units that I want to build at Red Lions Business Park. You can see we're building small industrial units. Now here is the site in its location. Over here in this area here is where I'm going to be building my new units. These areas here are the existing units. What I had to do was knock down these two units here, the two red dots, to make way for this wider slip road in. Because we're building these units at the back, the council wanted to put a wider slip road in. I didn't want to do that because I've got two units that really love having those units. They're right at the front of the property, and I thought, well actually, by buying over here, could I then put the slip road this way? I've got it zoomed in here to show you. So I had to demolish these two units to make way for this wider slip road in, but I think I can get permission to turn it that way round. I keep my two tenants, and therefore makes complete commercial sense. So yes, basically, I went and spent £830,000 of my stamp duty to put a wider slip road in to keep two tenants happy, to keep that rent. I mean, them two units are bringing us in a good rent return, and I didn't want to lose them. And so that's the reason I bought it. But you have to make it work. You have to make it work. So I am going to turn it into a high-end luxury serviced accommodation unit. I am going to turn this into a flat at the back. I'm going to make this work. It's going to be a positive return on investment. And also, I'm going to turn it into a trade. And by turning it into a trade, there's many more tax efficiencies than turning it into an investment. Tax efficiencies on trade, on inheritance tax, tax efficiencies on trade, on capital allowances, many, many things. Go and check it out with your accountant if you want to know the massive advantages of having trades over investments in your business portfolio. But try and put property into your business, but have it as a trade. So a hotel, for example, big chunk of property, but it's actually a trading business, not an investment unless I rent it out to someone. You look at my other businesses, you have a day nursery, you own the freehold of the property. That means you're a property owner, you've got the investment, but you're trading from the property. Many, many tax advantages of having trades over investments. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I absolutely hate residential investments now, because the government are just against investments. But at the moment, at the time of recording, they are very pro-trades. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to it. Hopefully I'll see you at one of my seminars one day. I've got a few seminars coming up in the next 12 months. I'd love to see you there if you want to learn more of this stuff to help grow your business. Don't forget to subscribe to the James Sinclair newsletter. I release a newsletter every Monday morning at 7 a.m. with my musings and thoughts to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you real soon.